Now what this video is about is me going on a diet. The reason I'm going on a diet, if you may have seen in a previous video, is because I have a high blood pressure. The high blood pressure is caused by me having a very sedentary job, by me not exercising, and by me making way too much homebrew and consuming it. So, I've actually been on many diets like this one. And I am always successful because I know what I'm doing. Every diet that is successful.
How was that for arrogant?
Every single one of them.
Oh, great, I got this thing started
because
again.
a person's energy intake.
Okay. Now, actually, before we continue, right, I was wearing that Black Sabbath shirt and that awesome Black Sabbath shirt in that video, so I decided to wear a Black Sabbath shirt in this video, too. You may remember when Ronnie James Dio got back with Black Sabbath. I think they did a show in Canada, and then came to the United States and did one in Radio City Music Hall, best as I can remember. I'm not entirely sure I'm right about that. But this was from Radio City Music Hall. That's where I went to go see them. Only time I've ever seen Dio with Sabbath. This is the longest I've worn this shirt. You know, I had to get some setup done and then come in here, but I've just had this hanging in my closet and thought, hey, you know what? I was wearing a Sabbath shirt on that first video. I should wear one in this video too. And I was being kind of arrogant deliberately in that video. And the reason why is because a lot of us like to externalize, because it helps to externalize our motivation by, you know, telling other people, you know what, this is something that I'm going to do. Because then that puts a little bit of pressure on us to not quit. Because it's like, oh, other people know that I was doing this and then I quit. The problem is quitting is not that big of a shame. We're all quitting stuff all the time. So, you know, we'll start diet programs, exercise programs, whatever, and then we kind of let it drift away. And that's just normal. So telling people kind of helps, but it's really not as good as a lot of people think it is. But if you can come out sounding like a jerk, like somebody who, you know, I know, right? And then you fail, then that's a little heavier burden to carry. And so if I came out and did that and put it online, lots of people see it, or even just one person see it if they're the right person, and then I quit, then that would have a psychic impact. So I just want to go over my numbers because today is, well, yesterday was the last day of my diet. As of this morning, it was over. I'll probably start a new one, but let's just see how this goes. So, what we're looking at here is my results. It's blank right there. I'm just going to bring them out one by one. And we'll start with my my scale weight. 197.2. That's what, when I got on the scale, that's what the scale said. Now, I'm doing this because this is the way that pretty much everybody keeps track of their diet. It's not the way I do it. It's actually why I put in italics scale weight at the top and whatever. I'm just doing this so other people can relate to it, and then I'll go into what I do. So 197.2 was where I started. 172.1 is what my scale said this morning. That's a weight loss of 25.1 pounds. Now the problem with that is, you know, what was lost. Sometimes people, they wait 3 or 4 weeks, get on a scale, it says they've lost 5 or 10 pounds, and they're happy about it, right? And the problem is, you know, well, you lost 5 or 10 pounds of what? You know, at the beginning, did you, before the first night you weighed a month ago, before that night, or that weighing, did you have a big dinner the night before, and maybe it was salty, and you drank a lot of water or beer or whatever, and and your water and food weight was high, and that's why your weight was high, and then a month later, whenever it was, you got on the scale again and you just happened to not be eating very much for the previous 3 days, and maybe you were a little dehydrated, and wow, I'm 10 pounds less. And it's like, 10 pounds of what? Water and food weight? Does that really count for anything? So that's why I don't use this scale weight as my big thing. But it is the way pretty much everybody else does it, so I wanted to include it. And so then we'll go down to how long the diet was. And it started on February 16th, and it ended on today. Now, I really shouldn't have said February 16th as the time that it started, because I was just creating a baseline. It's really maybe February 27th or 26th that it would have started after I had 10 days of data, in order to smooth out the water and food weight so that I would know what my beginning true weight really was. And let's just continue. Down here, the goal date was originally at the beginning, that's why my column is called beginning. At the beginning, my goal date was July 7th. Today is only June 7th. The difference is 30 days. I finished 30 days early, which is good, right? I'm happy about it. And my true weight at the beginning was 196.08. That's an average. It was an exponentially smoothed average with smoothing constant 0.9, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Of all my previous weights, and in that case, at the beginning, it was after only 10 days, but it kind of deletes out, averages out the higher than normal and lower than normal water and food weight. So as far as I'm concerned, when I started this diet, I was at 196.08 instead of the 197.2 that my scale actually said on that very first day. And today, 175.97 is my true weight, for a weight loss of 20.11 pounds instead of the 25.1 pounds. In other words, I'm attributing that 5.1 pounds to a difference in water and food weight, because I'm not eating as much now as I was eating back in the beginning, right? And, these things happen. Now, is that totally accurate? No, but I think it's better than not using the true weight. And my original weight goal was 167.82. Now, the way I have this thing set up, it was based on my goal was based on body fat percentage, and so if my lean weight goes up, then my weight goal would change. So we'll see how that changed over time. And my new weight goal is 175.97, right? That's where I'm at today. And the reason, what is that? It's over 8 pounds higher. And the reason for that is because I've done a lot of exercise. I've probably gained some lean muscle mass. But in addition, I don't think I found this. Let's see if I can go to a Google thing. And I showed you on a previous thing, water weight change with temperature. Let's try that. So, well, I showed in a previous video. You can go back and look. But basically what it means is when you go from winter into summer, during the winter you're not carrying around much water. Yeah, here it is. This is the article about how your weight changes from season to season. And the issue is that you don't carry much water around in your blood during the winter, because you don't get dehydrated very quickly. You're not sweating a lot in order to regulate your temperature. And so the evolutionary benefit is to not carry it around, so you don't have to expend the energy to carry it around. But in the summer, you need to carry around a lot more water in your blood, because there needs to be a lot more room for variation and fluctuation, and also the risk of of going without water for a while. Anyway, so my lean weight is up. So let's add one more. Go down to body fat percentage at the beginning of this diet. Now this is from an impedance scale, and it's also from my interpretation of the data from an impedance scale. So you really have to take this stuff with a grain of salt. But the kind of numbers it gives me are the kind of numbers that I would expect, so I tend to lean on them. Also, counting them as absolute gospel has a lot to do with why I was successful. So if I hadn't, the diet wouldn't have worked the way it's working. So down today, 17.01%. So I've lost, by my calculations, about 12.5 percentage points of body fat. My initial body fat goal was 18%. And as we noticed, I got 30 days ahead. I finished 30 days early, and I changed the, I had the spreadsheet making changes so that when I got ahead early, when I got ahead of myself, it would move the goalposts. So that it's like if I'm going to get ahead, then I'm going to have to run farther, so to speak. And it finally bottomed out at a goal of 17.01%. My intended fat loss at the beginning was 28.26 pounds of fat that I wanted to lose, and based on body fat percentage readings, I lost 28.54 pounds, so about a quarter pound more. 0.28 pounds more. So that's good, right? I mean, this is all the things I did to calculate my how many calories I should be eating all day were all based upon this sort of thing and got me down to where I am. My lean weight at the beginning was 137.61. Lean weight now, it's about, 7.4 pounds, no, wait, 9.4 pounds higher. Water weight, increased muscle mass, that sort of thing. Now, as my video at the beginning stated, this was due a lot to my blood pressure. I was concerned about my blood pressure and my beginning blood pressure, and this was one that used an average, so it kind of screened out the fluctuations, but was 134 in my systolic, and I brought it down to 120. I mean, it's just been hanging out at 120 for a really long time now, a few weeks, and that's dropped by 13 points. My diastolic began at 94. It's down to 79. And so I really accomplished what I was really after. And, one thing about the blood pressure is that, can you see that? I hope. Okay. It's time to end the war on salt. And you really should read this. If you're one of those people who tries to watch your sodium and not get too much sodium, you really should read this article on Scientific American. There's never been any evidence that salt is a problem for blood pressure unless you have something wrong with you that's causing your salt not to be metabolized properly or something. It's sort of like, walking may be very good for you unless you have a sprained ankle. If you have a sprained ankle, you don't want to go walking, but you don't say, walking's bad for people with sprained ankles, so walking's bad for people who don't have sprained ankles too, right? You don't want to say that. The same is true for salt, and in fact, I'm not going to Google it, but there's been quite a bit of evidence lately that people cutting down on salt is leading to some health problems. So, I think it's probably a good idea that, I ate plenty of salt all throughout this diet, and I brought my blood pressure down. We also have, a lack of exercise and being overweight. I've been researching this, and those two things seem to be the drunk driving of high blood pressure, hypertension. It's sort of like if you drink, 6 glasses of homebrew, go get in your car, get in a serious accident, you hit a power pole and, you knock out the neighborhood for 5,000, the power for 5,000 people, and you get charged with drunk driving, and, they say, you got in this accident because you were drunk, and your defense is, sober people get in accidents too. My being drunk had nothing to do with it, right? Okay, so let's suppose you're blaming your blood pressure on something other than being overweight and not getting a few hours of focused, intense exercise per week. You're like the drunk driver saying, "Hey, sober people get in accidents too," because you don't know. The only way you can know is to rule. The only way you can rule those things out is to lose the weight and get proper exercise. And so, if you're blaming it on anything, my grandfather on both sides of the family and all their kids had high blood pressure, therefore it's genetic, right? You don't know that. Not until you lost the weight and you've done the exercise and, my doctor says it's genetic. Well, doctors, there's more than one kind of doctor. And, research doctors, they don't say the things to people that doctors in family practice do, because the ones in family practice have incentives. And I'm not saying they're lying, because when we're under the influence of incentives, we don't really recognize it. These are things that have to be brought to our attention and we have to fight back against. But you're a customer of that doctor and he wants to keep you happy. One doctor, it's just like even before the snowflakes on campus things, it's like 20 years ago, some doctor got sued for telling one of his patients that she was fat. And I think he lost. It's like, not only was she unhappy and didn't want to go back to him anymore, she sued him and cost him a lot of money. And so doctors, they want to have pleasant experiences with other people, including their patients, and they want their patients to come back. And in addition, they are under tremendous incentive from the pharmaceutical companies to sell their products. Now, you might say, well, they're not getting paid directly. That's illegal. But, just do some research into it, and you'll see that there's a lot there. And plus, when they give you, it's like, take a pill. That's all it takes. Take a pill. Everybody wants that one simple trick, right? That sure beats going through a diet and doing a lot of exercise, right? So if they can tell you that it's genetic and you take their medication and that solves it for you, and you can tell yourself and you can tell other people, it's genetic. I know it's genetic. My doctor says so. Are you a doctor? Well, my doctor says so, and then you shame them for questioning your doctor, right? So you've set up a situation where you can feel really good about believing something that you really shouldn't believe. Let's see. Morning pulse rate. This is a fitness indicator. It started off at 64 beats per minute. And now it's averaging out around 53 beats per minute. Both of those are averages. Now this next thing, body mass index, this was great. 24.9. The reason why is because 25 and above is overweight. This 24.9 happened just today. Yesterday, my body fat index, or my body mass index was 25.0, which meant that I was, overweight by that standard. To me, this is purely accidental. Nothing was done to set this up like this. It's down to 24.9. And I just want to remind people, right, it doesn't matter what you eat. It does not matter what you eat. What matters is how much you eat. A lot of people say, it's not how much you eat, it's what you eat. Well, no. No, it isn't. This Twinkie diet, this guy lost 27 pounds. There's a diabetes website just lamenting the fact that it actually works, and they say what he did here, and it's, but it's the calorie. It's not protein. It's not any of that other stuff. Which brings us down to beer, because I've made a few videos about how it doesn't matter, that the alcohol calories don't matter. You don't have to exercise more, When I just subtract them out and don't count them when I decide what my metabolism is, they just don't matter. I can have as many alcohol calories as you want, and in my case, over the course of this diet, let's see what we've got. I drank 240 I'm drinking out of a keg, but the equivalence of 240 12-ounce beers. And what was this over? What period of time? February, March, April, May, June. It's less than 4 months, right? 240 beers, and these aren't, 4% beers, session beers. These are homebrew. They're typically 5% or more. Some of them were 7%. 240 beers, which made about 22.5 gallons of beer I drank over the course of this diet. Diet that worked out very, very well. And I didn't count the alcohol. I figure I can drink as much alcohol as I want. Now, that doesn't mean I could drink as much beer as I want, because there's carbohydrate calories in beer. As you can see here, I drank 13,668 calories of carbohydrates. And, a lot of people, they think, you're not supposed to be consuming carbohydrates. Well, let's just take a look at this last thing here. Hopefully it shows up. Yeah, there it is right there. That is sort of my nutrition profile. You see that it says 62D. That's like a letter grade in school. You get an A+ if your nutrition is really good. You get an F if it's really terrible. And look at mine, 62. And look at the easiest ways to improve. Get less alcohol. And you can see alcohol was 13% of my calories on average. Carbohydrates, 34. So 47% of my calories came from carbohydrates. And alcohol, only 21% from protein. Fat was pretty high. I'm eating bacon and salt and alcohol and carbohydrates and eating all these things. No problem losing the weight, because it's about the calorie. It's not about anything else. Nutrition is another thing. Notice I'm not talking about how to build muscle. You kind of need to get hormones right and things like that. I'm thinking that alcohol probably has a pretty big effect on that. Being healthy, being the right weight has a lot to do with being healthy, and exercise and stuff like that. But there's other things too, and you need to have a good nutrition profile, which my diet here has not been. My whole point was to show through my own example, just like this guy who did the Twinkie diet. Just like him, I wanted to show through my own example, it's the calorie, and you can eat as healthy as you would like. But if you're eating too many calories, you're going to get fat. You're not going to lose the weight. You can't focus on what you eat. You can't focus on what time you eat. I remember it was kind of a fad like 15 years ago, maybe more, but it just seemed like it was everywhere. Don't eat within 6 hours of going to bed. And I remember there was one particular woman I saw a video of who said, oh, it was so bad. What did she say? Because if you eat at night, those calories have nowhere else to go but into fat. It's like saying that your net worth depends on whether you get paid on Monday or whether you get paid on Friday, right? It's like, well, if you get paid on Friday, then that money has nowhere to go but in your bank account because all the stores are closed or something, right? I mean, that has nothing to do. I mean, if you want to eat every single last one of your calories when you go to bed at night, in the last 20 minutes, you take all your food with you and eat it in bed, every calorie for the whole day, and then go to sleep, that's just fine. You get people fasting now, doing these fasting diets. Some people are going 8 or 9 days between days that they eat, and you have the eat, stop, eat diet, and it's like, no. I mean, whatever period of time, let's say it's 30 days, however many calories you consumed, that's how many calories you have to either burn or will get stored as fat on your body. It's just these things that people do when they're trying to lose weight. Now, there may be some other reasons to do those things, but losing weight is completely agnostic with regard to those things. None of those things matters. So, and it doesn't matter how strenuously those people want to assert that it does. It's a law of physics called the conservation of energy, and if if the law of physics of conservation of energy, if the calorie-based diet didn't work for even one person anywhere in the universe, we would have to revolutionize our entire system of laws of physics. Everything that put people on the moon, that creates microwaves, that creates computers, and everything else that we're doing. The Hadron Collider, right? CERN, it would all be wrong. And it's not. It's all about the calorie. Okay, I'm done. Gone on way too long. 22 minutes. Ooh, it was even more than that when I had my video up. So I'm probably up to 25 minutes. Have a good one. And if you'd like to see this whole diet, I guess it'll be up in the top left. Am I going to get these things correctly? No, it'll be up in the top right, your top right. And maybe a proper homebrew video will be in the bottom right, and in the top left, there will be a surprise. And if you'd like to subscribe, that'll be right over here somewhere, bottom left. See ya.